Hi, it's Grandma from Grandma's Footsteps. A lovely lady has asked me to do a tutorial of a needle felted seascape, so here it is. I hope she likes it and I hope you all like it. It's a very basic seascape. I keep trying to say landscape, but it's a very basic seascape. Okay, so we start off by cutting out a piece of felt. The piece of paper is because the paper is the size I want the picture to end up, and I cut slightly around the outside because needle felting can shrink the felt down a bit, and you want the picture to be able to fit the frames, and I have A5 frames. So a piece of A5 paper, cut the felt a little bit bigger, and away we go. Now all I'm doing now is to sort out some of the colours that I want to use for the sky and such like from my mixed bats. Just basically some colours. And just put the bat away. And now some for the sea, nice blues. This is a new bat that I've just got, so I'm quite excited to use it. As you can see, you can often get different colours from each side of the bat. Oh, in fact, I think that was probably for the sky, but yeah, I'll be getting some sea colour out in a minute. And don't forget, with things like the sky, you want to overlap your different colours a little bit. Because you don't want a straight line. The only place you want a straight line is on the horizon where the sea meets the sky. And there you do want a straight line. If you don't have a straight line, it's likely to look as if the water is running off the side of the picture. So be very careful with that. You'll see later on I do actually spend a little bit of time straightening up the horizon there. So yeah, that was part of the sea colour I laid down there, and now I'm just going to use a very light, the colour is actually called Nude. One down at the front here as the sand. I will add some other colours to it later, but for the moment we're just laying down this colour, and you'll notice that I've got the beach going up on the right hand side. I don't really want the beach just to be straight across because I don't think that makes for a very good picture, but there we go. And I'm just needle felting down. I'm starting with my double needle, which I will probably show you in a moment. It's basically two needles, and I just hold them together with an elastic band. There you go. And I find that this is a good thing to start off with, especially when you're needle felting the edges, which I like to do when I've laid my wool down. I do like to needle felt the edges first, so that's around the edges of the felt, and you'll see that we have got wool hanging over the edges of the felt there. We will later trim them off, and we do use a lot of them when we sort of like do more to the picture and make things more defined. And now I'm using my 6 needles. It's a wooden holder that takes 6 needles. They're fairly strong needles. I think they're 38s. So they do a lot of felting in one go, but they also do leave quite a lot of holes, so I don't like to use it too much. But it does lay it down nicely. And I've gone back to my double needle now, just to give it that little bit extra and to smooth it out. There we go. Once you've got your basic colours down, I mean, you're part way there. Because in a moment when we trim this and cut the sides off, there's all your colours laid down and needle felted. But when we trim the sides off, which we'll do in a moment, you can see that it's almost a seascape already, without you having to do much more. But obviously we will be doing more, but it does look good, I think, at this stage. There you go, you've got a seascape. It's not perfect, but it's there. Now I'm adding a little bit of the sea colour there onto the beach, which is the waves as they come onto the beach. They're lapping onto the beach, so that's what I'm adding here. Only putting a fairly light covering of the blue wool there, because the water laying on the beach is very shallow, and you can sometimes see the sand through it. So that's what I'm attempting to do here. When I do the second wave on the beach, I will make it even thinner, that layer, so that you can see the beach through it, or the sand through it. Now I'm putting in a few bits of white to show that, you know, these are waves coming in onto the beach there. So and that's the foamy bits of the waves. So you want it to go in the angle at which you want water coming, which you got the water coming onto the beach there, so like that. I'm now putting some white around the edge, although it doesn't show very much at the moment, and that is because you would have the water foam onto the beach on this side. And you'll notice I'm laying down a slightly darker colour there, which I've also laid onto the sand, and that is because although the water is very shallow there, it still would make almost a shadow on the sand. But it's very light and very fine. And now here goes my other, I call this the rock pool, and you'll see that it's very, very light coloured, very delicate. And the sand is showing through. It may look a bit odd when you first do it, but once you get everything else on, you'll see that it does actually look right. Just adding a little bit of white and blue in there. Need to have a little bit of white, because even though it's very, very shallow, it would still have that little bit of foam effect to it. There we go. And a nice piece of white. That particular white is from one of the bats, and the way it reacts when I needle felt it, I believe it may be a silk fibre, which does actually needle felt differently, and it is quite a bright white, but it's really nice to use in this sort of picture. We've got a little bit of it up in the sky there as well. Okay. Now what I'm doing now is to add a little bit of the colour of the sky onto the sea, because the sky would reflect onto the sea. Not so many things reflect on the sea as do in still lakes and ponds, but it would still be there, so I'm just putting hints of the colour of the sky. And as you can see, I'm using bits that we cut off the edge, so it's not wasted. And any bits that I have left over once I finish the picture, I screw them all up together and use them with my core wool in the middle of some of the characters and animals and things I make. So with the wool needle felting, nothing is really wasted. So it's just little bits of the sky colour just going in there onto the sea there. Just really what you're doing is putting the colours of the sky upside down onto the sea, onto the water, and that's how you get the kind of reflections in water. Of course, you don't have to have your sea quite as rough as I've got mine here. You could have a calm sea, and then there would be more reflection. The reason there's not so much reflection on this, because it's not a calm sea, it's a bit of a rough sea there, and so it's breaking up the reflections a lot more. And I would always prefer to put on less and then add some than put a great big lump on. That's how I work. I mean, obviously it's up to you. You could do all your reflections in, you know, one piece really if you wanted to, but I find it's better to build up the layers, because you don't want them to be solid like the sky. And now I'm going to define the horizon a little better. It is a little bit wobbly at the moment. Here we go, we define the horizon with some white, as I do on the edges of water all the time. Where the water meets something, I like to put a white line. It's not, the existing horizon is not straight, so I'm putting this white line in as straight as possible. And you can see here I'm trying to pull a bit of the sky colour down to meet it. It's not really working, so I will actually add an extra piece of sky colour across there on that horizon line, so that the sea isn't going uphill there. So here we go, just an extra bit in there, see, and it's straightening the horizon up beautifully for us. It's almost like if you imagine that the world is flat and the sea is going off the edge there. That's where you know, it would just stop. The sea will just stop on the horizon. And I will add a little bit more of the sky colour in on the left hand side there, where the sea seems to have raised itself up a bit and is above the horizon line. So just the same as I did in the middle. There we go. Just straightening my lines out. And here I am adding some more of the sky colour in and bringing it down to the horizon. Cutting off a bit of the excess there to try and get it to lay down nicely. That's much better. I do like to trim my picture as I work, because then I can see more of the composition of what I'm going to get when it's framed. If you've got all that excess wool hanging off the edges, you can't really see where your picture is going to end up, so it makes it more difficult working out the composition, what you're going to put where. Now we have the brown, and we're going to make rocks. If you've watched any of my previous videos, you'll know that I really enjoy making rocks. It's just a mixed brown slither, and it's gorgeous. I just mix it up a little bit, roll it into an approximate ball in my hand, and then needle felt it on, and voila, you have a rock. I do use a little bit of darker colour underneath. I tried to get a little bit closer here for you, but unfortunately the camera didn't like it, so I'll back out again in a minute, and then you can see it clearer. Definitely didn't like that. There we go. So it's further away, but at least you can see what I'm doing. Now we'll be adding a bit of a highlight. I'm going to have the sea, sorry, not the sea, the sun coming from basically 3/4 of the way across the sky to the right hand side. That's where the sun's going to be, so where that yellow is in the sky. So that is the light is going to hit that rock there on the top, and on that side. You just need to bear in mind where you're going to put your light. I mean, sometimes I put the sun in earlier in the picture, and then it's a lot easier to work out where you need to add the highlights to things, but and the shadows, of course. So you can see I'm putting some shadow in now, this side of the rock. I put another small rock there next to him, so he's got a little friend. And now I'm doing the rocks just sort of like on the edge of the water, and onto the beach. Now these rocks are a bit flatter, so they're more difficult, I think. Once you get the hang of it, instead of rolling them up, I folded the piece of wool in half, so you get that sort of straight line, and a fairly sharp edge, which does, in my opinion, make them look a bit flatter, especially the one I'm doing now. And also I'm adding some more darker colour to this one, because from where the light is, that rock is behind the other one, so it's not going to get as much light. I'm not saying it's not going to get any, but it's not going to get as much highlight from the sun. And I'm putting some darker colour there on the edge of the rock there, because by the clever use of shadows and highlights, you can change the shape of a rock completely. So I've done that little brown bit sticking out, but I don't like it, and I do actually change it slightly to make it more sloped. The edge of that rock more sloped. And this is the other reason that that rock is mostly in shadow, because we've got another big one just here. The rocks almost make their own shapes. I don't try to push them too much into a specific shape. I think they do a really good job by themselves. And also the different colours in the wool, they just make it interesting, and they look like rocks when you first put them down, but then you put the highlights and the shadows and such like in, and you get even more rock-like. A shadow for him as well. Just added a little bit of colour in there because I'd missed a bit, and it was showing the grass, not the grass, the sand through. There you go, I've slightly changed the shape of the edge of that rock now. Looks almost like a hedgehog, that one. A very long hedgehog. So, yeah, adding the highlights and adding the things. And we do add quite a few more rocks. We have some over on the other side there, and then I end up putting a few pebbles on the beach. But it's your picture. Put them wherever you want, as many or as few as you like. It's entirely up to you. It's your picture. And now I'm putting a little rock there in the rock pool, to try and sort of, this is where I think it starts to make that water that we've put there, that's very light in colour, really work. Just a little one there. Okay, so we added more rocks and some pebbles on the beach there, and we've added some water sprays, water splashes round the rocks, and you can also see that I've put the very slightest hint of the sun in the background. Yep, so you can see that. I've also added a couple of birds, so I'm really happy. I've added some clouds around where the sun is sort of peeping through, trying to give the impression that the clouds are stopping the sun from peeping through. Yeah, so I'm happy with that, and I hope the lady I've made the video for is happy as well. So don't forget, I've got affiliate links, Amazon affiliate links down below to some of the items that I use. And I'd like you to like, comment and subscribe if you would. And take care out there. Bye bye for now. Thanks for watching.